Greetings to one and all, it's your old buddy Jay here, coming at you with another episode of Countermeasures. And I'm in the drawing room again today, so I've got about an hour. Sometimes I get a little break at lunch, don't often have any lunchtime breaks, but today I do get to have a lunchtime break. And the thing that I want to start drawing this week, which I'm desperate to start drawing actually, is the first kind of layouts for The Call of the Sea, which is the comic series that I'm about to embark on. I've been doing a lot, as you can see, I don't know if you can really see on my drawing board back here and all around the office. I've got lots of illustrations of various things that I've been working on for this book. I've been writing this book, of which there are currently, I think there's 5 issues. I may stretch that to 6, but it's 5 issues at the moment. And I've laid all the groundwork. I've written the story. I'm now writing the scripts for each issue. Issue 1 is done. I've drawn up all the character styles, so I know what people look like. And now I'm at the stage where I need to start thinking about actually drawing the issue. Now, in my mind, each issue was going to be 48 pages, which is quite a big task to take on. And I like the idea that after, all of it's done and the story is told in its entirety, it'll be about 250 pages and maybe end up as a graphic novel as well. So we'll see how that goes. Needless to say, I've got this story to tell, and I've been working very hard over the last, it's been ongoing for about 5 years actually, but really the last 12 months has been really pushing forward on trying to get this all written and put together, and I'm really happy with where it all is, and I feel ready to start now. So this is the exact moment I'm about to actually start drawing the pages. But what I tend to do is I may spend longer on some than others, but I just sort of skip through to get the layouts and the structure ready for what's happening with the story. I have my script here, so this is where my script is. So I have my script here, and what I'll do with this, set that behind me, what I'll do with this is I'll go through and each stage as I draw up, I'll just number these different bits of dialogue, and I've given myself various instructions for things that need to be drawn, and then the rest is up to me how I want to do it as I'm working through it. So that's very fun. Now obviously before I started this, I actually have just finished. I've just been working on another story, which is a much quicker one, which is for a comic story called Skipper Whiskers and Apocalypse Now, it's called, which is all about a time traveling cat, which isn't quite as serious as the Call of the Sea. But what I've been doing, with these is I've been doing very rough layouts for the comic for that one, just to give myself some structure, and then I'll go back and work those up into much more detail, and then I'll ink everything. And I think this one's going to be in colour. The Call of the Sea is purely going to be black and white. It might have a little bit of colour in it in places, but predominantly the story's in black and white. This one's going to be in glorious Technicolor, pulling out all the stops for backgrounds and digital manipulation and all of that stuff, because I like keeping things stripped down and basic, but I also like to be able to mess around with some of those other skills I've picked up over the years. So what we're going to do now is basically take what we've got here and just start working out these pages. So this is page 1. I always do this just so I can keep track of what's happening. My setup's a little bit random at the moment. I kind of have this light sticking me in the face, and there's my Brio camera likes to go in and out of focus constantly, so that's going to be interesting. And I just work in a very basic way when I'm doing this kind of stage, which is that I'll map out my comic book size. I'll draw whatever I need to draw on here. I'll then scan these in, and when it goes to the next stage, I'll blow these up by about 140%. So I do a lot more work on the detail at that size, and then eventually they get reduced down again, and you get a little bit more depth in some of the illustrations. And I quite like doing that rather than just sticking to 100% all the time, because I find it a little bit whatever. And yeah, so I will predominantly be drawing all of this in HB. I've got my last pencil you'll ever need. I did a video about that not long ago. I'm going to work with this a little bit, but then I do have all my other brushes and bits and pieces here, or my other Gumph that I'll probably try and incorporate in at some point. So there you go. So basically what I've got here is my first page. Now I'm thinking that the intro pages for each of these, over the kind of course of the sort of 6 or 7 issues, they're going to have a kind of opening scroll, which is going to be this kind of thing. This is mainly going to be black. And then I'm going to have this kind of almost like organic. Is that even picking me up? How are we doing, Brio? Don't let me down now. Maybe you'll refocus. Are you focusing on me? We need to bring you down a bit. What do you think? That better? Maybe you should be coming down here instead. Yeah, that looks better. Now I'm kind of lit in a spooky way. Right. Let's just make sure that when I am drawing this. Now I do nothing more than work just on the old kind of classic paper stocks. Now this stock, which I'll tell you what it is. This stock is the classic, the Bristol Strathmore 300 series. There's 20 sheets in here. I always chop them down so I can work on them smaller. Yeah, that's, you can get those from Amazon for about, I don't know, what are they now? 30 quid or something like that. Not cheap, but you know, one of those will do me start to finish for a comic book, so that's always good. Yeah, so I kind of had this idea that this thing would be, this is a kind of emerging part of the storyline, which I won't go into too much detail on that, but there's just going to be this kind of, this is all going to be like an encroaching darkness around here, you know, that kind of thing. Is that staying in focus? And then I obviously have this little bit of old cheap board here. It's not very high tech, but I don't need to go high tech with all this stuff, because I just like to keep it really basic for these things. I think, you know, you can go straight into dealing with this kind of digitally if you wanted to. You know, a lot of people just draw straight on the iPad. I think for stories like this, where I need it to be a little bit more, I want it to be a little bit more realistic than some of the other stuff I've been working on. You know, I did the Danger Mouse book last year, and I'm constantly working on Pugs in Space, which is another project that's sort of ongoing. And now I've got Skipper Whiskers, who's the time-traveling cat. That's something that I'm sort of looking into publishing as well, hopefully pre-Christmas, because it does have a Christmas theme to it, that story. And if you're interested at all in buying any of this, how are we doing? Is that focus? So I kind of want to be a bit even closer, really, don't I? Let's try and move this forward a little bit. Try and get you down a little bit more. How's that? Better? I don't know. I also work at a funny angle, so I'm sure none of this is going to kind of map out. But yeah, I think maybe this is going to start as a kind of, it's going to be the first page of every issue. It's going to be this kind of growing nucleus, where eventually it's going to end up being this sort of whole mapped out graphic. And what I might actually do is draw the whole thing and then just scale it back for right back to issue 1. I don't know, haven't decided yet. But this is just an indicator for what's going on here. For me, let's move you over a little bit. Sorry, this is all a bit half-arsed, but I'm sort of working it out as I go So yeah, if you are interested in seeing any of my illustration design work, well, particularly around comic books, you can go to there's a publishing website now called jackrabbitcomics.com, and there you will be able to pre-order various issues. Danger Mouse you can get from there now, but I think maybe Pugs in the future, but at the moment Pugs you can only get at pugsinspace.co.uk, I believe. But that site kind of goes up and down a little bit, so I'm not in charge of that one. I just do some of the creative work, you know. Right, so that's going to be my page 1. That was relatively easy. I think we got off lightly on page 1, to be honest with you. So let's spinning through them now. Right, page 2. And the date is the 22nd. How did that happen? 2022. And I've got my little sharpener here. Here we go. Good for the environment. Not so much wood, although I hate to say it, a good old-fashioned HB with oh lovely. Let me get my rubber. Good old-fashioned HB with lots of wood around it. Chop those trees down. Can't be beaten really. Although this pencil comes pretty close. So what I've got here, so it says Equality Issue 1. Final opening scene. Emily and G, her grandmother, are walking up a rocky ridge. The sky's bright, it's daytime, the ground is dry and dusty. Emily has on walking boots and badly fitting clothes. She's also carrying a rucksack. G has a rucksack, is in an overcoat and a neck scarf. So this is my opening spread. Now for spreads, obviously, like I can just hit that whole, I could do 2 pages up like that, but just for the sake of this, I think we're going to do this as 2 and 3. There we go. What I would really like for this Brio is for it to be a fixed you know, the depth of field keeps going in and out, and the focus, I would just really like it to be fixed, but near. Okay, so let's say this is my divisional line here. Are you getting any of that? Probably need to play around with the light and dark on this, but whatever. Okay, so what I was thinking was Emily. She's going to be my main character here. So we're going to have her looking over her shoulder. Again, none of this particularly needs to be accurate at this stage. It's just so that I can start to get an idea of what the structure of this is going to potentially look like. Also, I will constantly move around, so apologies for that. It's just I'm always on the move with this sort of stuff. Okay, so we're going to give her a rucksack here. I have one of those roll tops. She is going to be twisting her neck, so that's going to be craning down. Her shoulder's going to come in here somewhere. And that's her back, let's just say, for the time being. Let's see, how are we looking so far? In fact, let's just turn this that way. Maybe we'll mess with the camera instead. Oh yeah. My wonky drawings. Okay. Now back of her arms here. It's going to come in here. Just always had this idea that she would be kind of holding the straps of her rucksack. And this is gonna, you know. Now I do use kind of points of reference for materials and objects and things like that, but also sometimes I just like to make them up, you know. It's much more fun. And also not forgetting that that is meant to be fabric. So lots of folds and creases in that bad boy. So this is her kind of introduction. She's meant to be kind of 15-ish, around that kind of age. Also, by the way, the rubber is your best friend. Too many people don't use it enough when they're drawing. People think it's for mistakes, but it's really not. For me, it's about drawing and redrawing. You should get your general structure, but you're not going to get it right first time every time, you know. She's turning her head, so we'll put her hair kind of doing that. Naturally her head will be kind of around there. The cheek feels a bit far out at the moment. Cut that in a bit more. There we go, that's better. And the shoulder's coming up like this, so we're kind of looking over her shoulder. She's got a... Is it going to be a hot day? I think it probably is quite a hot day. What does the script say? The script says, yeah, it's a sunny day. So we'll bring her, not make her too massively. Let's bring that up down there. And what we want to do is not make that too noisy. Let's put a collar in of some kind. Just that. Right, now she's going to have a strap going over. Like this, and we're going to get down there nice and sharp, you know, like when you're pulling your straps nice and tight on your thing. We've got our knuckles here, just bleeding over the crease of the page, but that's okay. This is the introductory page, so I don't mind that being a little bit. Okay. It's funny how a single tiny little line can change the personality of a whole drawing, you know. She's looking a bit grumpy at the moment. Okay. Again, I'll probably change most of this in post, like I always do, but... Oh, that's pretty nice done as well. So that was kind of roughly what I was thinking in terms of like how this spread might start, introducing the character, you know, just to get that rolling. She's meant to be on a ridge here, so let's put her in an actual space now. So we're going to bring this right up here. continue there. Show that she's actually sort of walking up a semi-hill. Cheer her up a bit. Now, we have a grandmother in this scene as well. She's meant to be a little bit further off into the distance. Let's just build her up here. She's going to be wearing a kind of old grandmother's overcoat. Some kind of walking boots. It's all meant to be quite post-apocalyptic, so these clothes are going to be a little bit kind of too big, or actually standing in that space rather than pasted over the top. There you go. Gandalf's staff. He's going to be wearing a bowler hat. You're one of the first people I drew, actually, that one of the first characters. You know, just wanted to get that kind of feeling of depth on this one straight away. Yeah, nice big open spread. Bit of rendering on her. She's also going to be holding that bag. Yeah, okay, she looks quite good. Okay, and then we're going to put in a little bit of detail here. This is probably more detail than I normally would go into, just for sort of layouts, because like with the Skipper Whiskers one, I don't tend to go into quite so much detail. And like with the pugs, I just kind of get a rough idea about, you know, what that could potentially look like. And one of my all-time favourite illustrators, who I had the pleasure of meeting a little over a year ago. Was it a year ago? Nearly a year ago. Wasn't it quite a year ago? Is an illustrator called Jeff Senior, who everybody knows if you're into comic book stuff, who he is. And yeah, him and his writing partner had some good advice about the biz, which is always good. That at the top of your head. Anyway, something like that. It looks a little bit older than I wanted, but anyway. Right. Yeah, and he always and Jeff always does these kind of, you know, the way he gets the scale is really by just having a little bit of those sort of rock details on the floor. And if you look at any of his illustrations of like all the old Transformers stuff, there's always a little rock here and there. Just not too much, like not too much detail, because I'm probably going to work into this a lot more on the when it comes to the rendering and stuff. But you know, rocks hanging together. Now on this one, we are going to have, unlike many of my previous projects, which I just completely decided to ignore, I'm going to build the title of this into this opening spread, and so every time there's a new issue, there'll be all the usual title stuff loaded at the front, and then this opening page will be the kind of title of this. So I mean, I'm just going to put it in roughly because I'm going to not quite decided what the style of this is going to be yet, so it may well change, but let's just put the main title in, which is The Call of the Sea. Again, it's just a kind of placeholder for a reminder for me that I need to do something, design something fabulous, of course, which I'll probably do right at the end. Let's just paste that in, I guess, for the moment. And then this one is going to be called, this issue is called Small Beginnings. I haven't quite decided how that's going to look yet, whether I'm going to try and incorporate it somehow into, you know, have it sort of like a sort of shifted in a sort of perspective way. I always like that in comics, where it was like more part of the environment, or whether it's going to be all a bit broken. I haven't quite decided on the style, but that's just a reference point for me, just to make sure that I know that whatever's going there needs to be that title. You know, and then when we get close up, we can do a little bit more detail on those rocks and things. Again, I don't do too much of that at this stage. You know, once I've got the sort of structure, actually the majority of that, I'll just, you know, why spend time doing so much on the detailing of this incidental surroundings when, you know, you could spend more time doing that at the inking stage and just making the final product much better. Anyway, it's an interesting one. It's something that I'm dealing with at the moment, with, you know, various people saying that, you know, the drawings should be finished and as completed as they're going to be in pencil, and then you kind of go to the inking stage. But I kind of feel that in some cases that detracts a little bit away from the energy of the drawings, you know. Anyway, that's just me. Okay, so we're sort of starting to get there. You sort of get the idea of that, and then as always, we definitely need some kind of sky in here. Not too Peppa Pig, but just you know, clouds are always interesting to draw. Okay, so it's kind of starting to look like something, and again, 9 times out of 10 I go through all this stuff and just change it all, so you know, you get the idea. It's going to be a bit noisier, you know, more detail closer up, and we can start to lose a little bit of it as it gets further away, you know. You know, something like that. Something like that. But I made the conscious decision to do all of this one just in pen and ink, or you know, black and white. So I can really focus on the rendering of the final thing, and maybe there'll be a colour version one day, but now, is she going to be speaking on this page? What do we think? Nah, I like that one as it is. So we're rocking and rolling now. We're on page 4 already. Okay, so we've kind of done this. Actually, the one thing I did miss off here, which I need to include, is that she's meant to have a neck scarf on. There we go, that's better. Okay, so that's in. Right, so let's grab another sheet. Page 4. It's me, I'm the artist. And the date is the 22nd of the 9th. 22. Get a close-up of Granny G here. With a bobble hat on. I think she wears glasses as well. That was in my descriptor. Old lady face. Trying not to make her look like a kind of 70s pimp if I can help it. Some depth in that landscape in the distance. Now she's going to be talking here. She says, "Careful, Em. Mind your footing gets a bit rocky at the top." So normally what I would do here is cut that in. We'll do that as O1. So that's just my little reference there, so I have to sit and write out everything she's saying. I can just do that one here. Let me take my sheet. O1, circle and a tick. And we'll cut another panel in here. Roughly the same. So then you see I can work on this in various levels. I can be drawing up the illustrations, but I can set the pages up so I know where, you know, the final artworks for where the lettering is actually going to fit. And then it might be that I change some of the dialogue at that point. So it almost becomes like two projects. You've got like the illustration stuff going on that then just drops in and updates. And then you've got the script that I'm constantly tweaking while we're going along. I think in this one, Emily's getting a little bit annoyed that she's got to walk so far. So we'll do a kind of slightly below shot here. Be the final thing, but she's got a collar on from before, so let's put that in. She's wearing some kind of old like army jacket or something. Do something like this. Do another speech bubble here. That's O2. She's saying, "How much further do we need to go, G? This pack is getting kinda heavy." And the third panel on this bit. A little bit bigger to fill that space. Don't like to go right up to the edges if I can help it, but sometimes I like just the simplicity of getting as much information on a page as possible, and just simple panels are the way to do that. Not everything has to be blown out all the time. And G's going to be looking over her shoulder this time, so let's have a back in here. Whatever that's going to be. We should have one of those little clips. Granny face. See a bit more of her hair. Let's see, a bit more detail about there. What she's saying just a little bit further. Let's just drop it there. Some people don't like to break out of the frames, but I always like to do it when it's appropriate. Maybe Grandfather gave them to her. Okay, how's she looking? Green on that when the time comes. Okay, how are we looking? Yeah, okay. What have we got here? So we did just little feathers time. I'm going to show you a few more vegetable patches you haven't been to yet. How glamorous for a girl's outing. And I think what we're going to do now is we're going to have a full frontal, as they say. Yep. I think Emily's going to be looking down slightly at her feet. You know, going for walks with your grandparents and parents or whatever when you're a kid. That's always so painful. It's not until you get older you realise how precious those moments were. Shoulders in there, arms, a bit low, bring those out a bit, two elbows, I don't want to make it too muscly, she did have that collar right, bring that in like that, I want to have some layers. Work a lot more scruffier than this usually, but this is pretty scruffy for me, I guess. Okay. So waist we finish around here. Okay, she would have her. So it would be around here. This foot's coming forward for sure. Move that nice and big. back. Something like that. So it's kind of like the underdrawing for her leg. So kneecap. To just pull her back a little bit when I draw that in. Some big old boots on. Let's draw that off the page. Let's misjudge that slightly, but whatever, I can fix it. Kids never do it with their shoelaces. That's my reasoning behind that. Big foot. I'll just bring that back up here. Now her knee's probably going to be more like there by the time I've attempted to save it. Jacket. Come in. And jackets have overlap. It's just all those little details where it's kind of not hugging the body and things like that. It just gives it a bit more depth. The knee will be there. She's climbing uphill with that one. Sticking out. Something like that. Okay, so let's see. Hairline. Meant to be a punk kid. How long are we going for? 48 minutes. All right, we're doing all right. We're going to get an hour. Let me just check my email. Yeah, we're good for a bit. Let's see. Yeah. Put a nose in. Pretty annoyed. We'll have her looking down. Something like that. Again. I'm really off the structure here. Okay, something along those sort of lines. Okay. Got another nice beach over here. So this is number 4. So she says, I thought Grandad had taken me to the mall. Okay, how are we looking? Alright, so it's starting to sort of come together, starting to get a bit of structure to what's happening on each page. Now let's see, how many shorter ones do we have here? So what I've got is, there's a bit where G's waffling on for a while, so we're going to split that to page 5, I think. That for 5, and we're going to get these in. So we've got 1, 2, 3. I've kind of got like 4, maybe 5 bits of interaction. So what I'm thinking of doing here is having a, also my lines are never straight, I can never draw a straight line. We had a teacher in when I was doing my GCSEs and A-levels back in the day, back in the UK, which is where I live. He could draw the straightest line with a pencil I've ever seen. He could literally just like that is about as straight as I can get. Look, it's all over the place. I kid you not. Like my tutor could just go like, and it would be straight as drawing with a ruler. And that's, what did I say? 4 interactions or 5? I think 4. So let's just build these up here. These top 3 will be the same roughly. I don't even mind them just going behind her arm a little bit. Now you can play around with that. I mean, it's obvious that this is going through and around to her, and then we'll do the same. So it's all about sort of snaking those around. No one's going to be worried about the inconsistency of direction on this one. I guarantee you. Am I still in focus? This is actually working quite well. Oh, that literally went out of focus when I said that. That's hilarious. This is working out quite well considering. Yeah, I mean, it keeps blowing out. I think it's because it's trying to focus on the tip of my pencil. Oh, big crazy old pencil. Anyway. Yeah, and also I think like paneling is something that I find quite interesting. You know, I've been a graphic designer for years and years, and you know, doing a lot, laying out large documents and things like that. It's all about changing the pacing of that document when there's a lot of content to go into it. So, like for example, for my book Old Skipper, let's move this out of the way. The other day, and again, this is just a little side thing, but you know, I can kind of mess around with this kind of paneling, you know, and there may be a drawing blown out here, but then what's quite nice is that you can then have a little play around with it by, you know, bringing some more energy to life by sort of messing up the borders and stacking them slightly roughly, and just adds a little bit more action. So I think getting a balance of the two is where you want to be. So when you've got the quieter moments of story like this, where it's just like dialogue between characters, you know, like I mean, I'm a huge movie buff, and I think there's no doubt about it in my mind that when it comes to building these stories and working on them and working on the layouts, that for me it's all very cinematic, you know. But for the quiet moments it's okay to do that. And also, I don't like rollers, which is ironic for someone called My last name being Measures. I like it. Parallax format. No, they call it a paradox. Love a paradox, me. Right, so where did we get to in our dialogue? So we did 4. The next one says, your grandfather, rest his soul, he only took you to the closest spots of the house. There are a few more over this ridge. You get a lot more sunlight and it is much better. No, that's page 3, that's why. Why am I missing a page? Oh, there we go. Got you on the back here, haven't I? I think that's going to be page 5 actually. Let me just skip a page for no reason. It's much better picking. Right, okay, so now in this shot, grandmother has the map. I'm going to put it over here, I think. And it's okay, because by this point we've seen who's wearing what. So the consistency in who's talking here. It's going to be a little bit dog-eared, this thing. It's meant to be like an old paper map that her departed grandfather had made. That's 5. Feels like an eyebrow close-up, this one. Love an eyebrow, me. Too many lines. More lines the older she looks. That's the old saying. I haven't said that already. Okay. And she's going to come out here. Grandad says, further up the ridge than this, isn't it a bit dangerous? I thought you always said. Yeah, okay. And this one I think we'll just put her a little bit closer, just in the background. 6. Okay, we're going to load a dialogue, but actually what we're going to do is we're going to draw a big finger. Tuck those ones in. A big old granny finger. Some kind of like instructions on it. Resistance. Sounds like woodlands. That's a funny looking finger. Okay. The birds are still there. Okay, so how are we looking? Yeah, it's alright. Okay, so there's 6 dialogue. 6, and that's the 7 dialogue. That one we did. 5 we did. 5, 6 we did. And 7. I like this kind of pace of like, you know, down, up, down, around here, and then right, left, right. And then we're going to put another dialogue in there. Doing this, she can be looking up here. She's going to be sort of holding the map like this. Bit of orienteering. Backpack's going to come in here somewhere. Too young. And our elbow is going to be there. Okay. She's sort of standing slightly crooked. That's okay. Yeah. She's going to be looking that way, and Emily's going to be a little bit further down here. She's obviously still coming up the hill. Right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to have a nice big piece of dialogue here. We'll just put that behind Emily's head. Okay, and we're going to name that 7A. And on here, this bit here is going to be 7A. And then this bit is going to be 7B. So we did that, little bit more. Let's take that out. It's going to go there. That's going to be 7B. Okay, so I think that kind of feels about right. You know, we've got the dialogue between these guys. There's a nice kind of something interesting happening on this page. Then we've got the map, conversation, close up of the girl. You know, she's getting a bit closer, walking up the hill. Yeah. And then, you know, sausage fingers points at quite got enough fingers there. Oh, granny hands. A little bit of sky, mate. Yeah, okay. I'm pretty pleased with that. Not a bad start. I mean, a lot of these layouts I've been thinking about for quite a long time. So, you know, it's still early days, but in my head, you know, so we've got our sort of opening page, and then we've got our sort of DPS, which is going to be this kind of shot of this girl walking up the hill towards her grandmother. Obviously I'll spend a lot more time in the detail of that. Then we've got the structure of this page, which is, yeah, sort of working together quite nicely. Still not entirely convinced about old pimp grandmother's glasses, if I'm totally honest. I might just have to be able to see her eyes through the glasses, otherwise she becomes a little bit, you know. Plus she's meant to have a scarf on. There's a plot point. Yeah, okay. Right, well, I think I'm pretty pleased with that. So at this stage, I am going to call it the end of this stream. So thanks very much for tuning in if you've watched any of this at all, and for hanging in there. Got a lot more to go, but I've made a good start, and we've done about we did nearly a page and a half of dialogue, so that's good. How many pages have we got left? Let's depress ourselves. Half, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Got about 15 more pages of dialogue to go, which should equate to about another 40 pages, I think, by the time I'm finished. But that is everything. So thanks very much. Like I said, thanks for tuning in. You can always watch these streams. I try and stream, you know, I try and stream on Wednesday nights. It doesn't always happen. I do have it on my the you know, timings thing on Twitch. I don't know much about that. I'm still learning. So yeah, so I don't always hit the timings on that, but I do try and get these to go up once a week if I can do. And also I do stream quite a bit of gaming as well, because I'm a 45-year-old man-child, and I do predominantly record that on Twitch, and then I upload that to YouTube, so you can go and visit that there. So yes, you can see me on twitch.tv/counter__measures, which is where this is recorded. You can view this all again if you want to on youtube.com/countermeasures, and like I said, that's where a lot of other stuff that I do gameplay wise, and also talking about graphic design and advertising and creative thinking, etc. happens there. Instagram.com/counter__measures. You can check out my Instagram there, or if you're really bored, you can go to my jasonmoses.com website, which just has loads of illustration stuff on there. And if you're even more bored, you can go to my business website, which is deadlinecreative.co.uk. And yeah, that's a lot of that's my main job, which is graphic design. So a lot of the design work I do is there too. So thanks for tuning in, like I've said twice before, and I appreciate it. And hopefully there hasn't been any stuttering on this stream. I managed to fix my lag issues that I had in previous streams, so hopefully that should have all been rectified now. And until next time, be good, stay safe, and be kind to one another. Cheers.